place. You guys are going to see this hand. He's coming in. He is not a novice at all to Mind, Body, and Soul. He's been on here a number of times. And you guys are Apostle Rogers, so we should be on his page as well, because we're going to jump on into this topic of conversation. I see you guys coming in, and I do appreciate you for sharing, for saying hello. Beatrice, I see you. I see you, Janice. I see you, Brandy. Those that are on here already, I appreciate you guys coming in. Listen, I saw a post, and I had to write down the dates here. So on December 13th, of course, we roughly a little bit over a month ago, unfortunately, we witnessed or, found out that they call him Twitch, Stephen Boss passed away, and he passed away from suicide. So many things were, of course, going around on social media. People had their opinions, their thoughts. Probably one of the first things that came to many of us, our minds was, huh? Why? What seems so happy? What he displayed to us, really? It came down to that. What was the underlying factor there? What was the straw that broke the camel's back? Why? Why did this happen? And it hurt us. And I think it hurt a lot of us, because it's almost like we felt like he was one of our own. You know what I mean? He was like, you kind of relate to him on so many levels, but he was personable, I think, in the way that he presented himself to the world. He was very personable. So, we were all like, oh my God, our hearts were hurting. And so like 2 days later, I was looking on Facebook, and I saw a post from my good friend, Apostle Rogers. And, well, actually saw a couple of posts on that day. One of them said, depression is not merely emotional sadness. Depression is a spiritual weight that is produced from internal pressure. I said, whoa, that is loaded. That's a statement that is loaded, very deep. And I don't know if I reached out to him that day or not, but I'll get into the other posts that I saw as well. But let's talk about that. I don't know if I said Happy New Year to you. Happy New Year, Apostle Rogers.
Happy New Year to you. It's all good.
We're excited to be here another year. But when I looked at that post, so many things came to my mind. And I know you're a thinker like I am, my goodness. And you deal with so many things with being an apostle, with being an activist, and so many, other hats that you wear. Tell us about that post. How did you come to even write that? What was in your mind when you were writing that particular post?
So 2019, my wife and I were separated. Beginning of 2020, we divorced. Okay. I'm pastoring, running companies, I'm traveling, like books, I'm doing interviews, I'm going through all of this kind of stuff. And then out of left field, I get hit with this thing. Yeah. And so immediately after that, COVID hit, as if, things weren't bad enough. And so we wind up having to shut the church down. I'm doing virtual funerals, twice a week. I'm doing grief counseling for people. Their entire families are devastated. Churches are losing their pastors. People are calling, and everybody is pulling from me. And so one evening, it's a Friday, I found myself in a very dark place. Like, what am I doing this for? This is nothing. When you are uh, consistently being the strong one for everybody else, it's very difficult to assess your own need because you put yourself as the resource. I'm going to help you. I'm going to build you up. I'm going to push you up. And you fail to realize that you are on complete empty, emotionally, mentally, spiritually. You're functioning because that's all you know to do. But the reality is you are in a very dark space. And it's not about if you have money or any of that kind of stuff. The reality is your internal man is broken and you need some help. And men, we commit suicide 5 times the rate of women because we're not accustomed to saying, I need some help. I don't feel good. I don't feel like leading today. I don't feel like being there for everybody, because especially as Christians, we're taught to love our neighbors as we love ourselves and all that kind of stuff. And it's very easy to prioritize everybody else over yourself. And that's what I was doing. And so I went and got some help. But I was at a very, very bad place.
Yeah, yeah.
So that's where that post came from.
And I'm so glad that you are transparent enough to share that on the post and on here. Because, as you stated, as a man of God and as a man, because you all have an awesome responsibility, whether or not you are a man of the cloth or not,
Mhm.
as the head of the house, as, one, like you said, have all this responsibility on them. We pull on you like crazy, husband, father, and you're responsible for, the success or failure of your family. That's to deal with, that's on your shoulders. And so, when I think further, about what an individual is dealing with, we never really know until or unless they share it with us. Okay. Twitch, we'll just say Twitch. We don't know what he was dealing with. We saw all these different posts. Oh, maybe it was because of the money he lost, or maybe he lost some money, da 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 da. We can speculate all day long. But we don't know exactly what it is that, he dealt with. He could have felt all of that pressure that you just described and more, of what you were dealing with. So
say something real quick, because there are a lot of assumptions made about people that don't carry success. And one of the assumptions is the lack of success is what causes depression, suicide, mental illness. Success is much more dangerous than a lack of success, because once you become successful, now you're responsible. You have something that you have to take care of. And the pressure at that level is different than the level of when you're trying to build something. So when you have notoriety, when you have a name, Fred Hammond did a YouTube about going through his divorce. I didn't even know he had went through a divorce. And a friend of mine shared that video with me. And that was a part of my healing process on top of the therapy. But that was a part of my healing process, hearing another man of God explain his heartache and his posture and how he had to navigate doing what he does and bringing worship and stuff to the world, but then coming off stage and having to battle those internal messages that he had to struggle with. So don't think just because someone's successful that they don't have issues. Success does not eliminate issues. And a lot of times success even breeds more issues, but we'll talk about that later.
You're bringing up some good points, because that is so true. And even, not only because Twitch is, of course, not the first person that committed suicide who was in the spotlight. you've had others. Even his death reminded me of Robin Williams
Mhm.
when he committed suicide. And it was like, "But that makes me laugh. What? You know?" So again, I mean, it's so true what you're saying. And then also, success could breed, those emotions, for individuals to like, okay, I'm done, this is too much.
And there's different ways that it happens. I think people, they like to categorize the whole process of suicide from the actual action, but it's two ways that it happens. Some people crack, and I think that's probably kind of what was going on with Twitch. I think something happened that exacerbated something that was going on, and just that day he made that decision, I'm gone.
Yeah.
There are other people like me. I was a slow slider. I was just going down, 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 down. And when I hit bottom, it was a realization. It was like, okay, I'm at the bottom. What am I doing? I don't want to do this no more. It was that.
Okay.
And so as I'm contemplating that, the realization of how far I had slid down came on me. And you have people like that. So don't think you understand, because at any moment, a person's mind can, boom, they could be up one moment and then something happens. And then that thought comes and that thought is not challenged. And then the person will commit suicide. Where you have other people, it's a conglomerate of things that built up over time that brings that person to that decision.
Right.
You might be talking to somebody that contemplated suicide yesterday and you don't know, because they're still functioning. They're at work and they're happy and they're go lucky in that environment. But once they get out of that environment and they have to deal with that internal, what I always call that internal witness, it for some people that becomes their out.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. Oh, okay. These are good points. And I want to make sure that I, on today, address, the points with you, because it's so important. And although, because, unfortunately, sometimes, Apostle, and you can probably witness to this, when a situation like that happens in the news, and it's been, like I said, a month, a little over a month, sometimes people kind of forget, what happened and that he did commit suicide. But this stuff is so serious, we cannot not talk about it. You know what I mean? We have to talk about it. We have to discuss it. So then our topic today, depression, when the call for help goes untreated. So that's the focus that we're looking at today. And then how do you manage the pain? Because there are some of you that are watching now live that will come back and watch it. Like Apostle just said, you know what? You may have been contemplating it yesterday, or you may have been dealing with depression yesterday or today, for that matter, watching this, how do you manage the pain? Whew, okay, so, and I'm glad you mentioned about the how men commit suicide. Because I was looking at, I love to go to NAMI.org, because they had here that, oh goodness, let's see, 1 in 5 US adults experience mental illness each year. And this number almost, oh goodness, it's definitely, let's see, 1,754,000 adults in Illinois. And I was looking up this according to states have a mental health condition. Now that's just in Illinois, all right? You can go to NAMI and you can look up your state or whatever and find out, the stats on that. It says here in February 2021, 38.5% of adults in Illinois reported symptoms of anxiety or depression. 28% were unable to get counseling or therapy. And see, that's another side of it, okay? Dealing with this, but then not even able to get the help that you need to come through it, deal with it successfully, if you will. On December 15th, also you did a post, men commit suicide at a rate of 25 times that of women, which you mentioned earlier. And men need real ministry to teach them how to manage pain. And I believe that second post was when I came up with that particular topic title. So let's talk about this a little bit, if you will, that second post. You know, how we know the stat, you know, the men committing suicide more than women. When you talk about real ministry, they need real ministry. And this is an apostle, he's a man of God, you guys that are coming in. How do we get to the point of trying to teach them how to manage pain? What do you mean by that? Can you talk a little bit more on that for us?
So I have the benefit of having some really amazing people in my life. Part of the reason why I'm still here is their ministry to me. When you are a preacher, you are in constant give mode, preaching, teaching, counseling, funerals, weddings. You know, people get sick at the hospital. You got to get out your bed at 2:30 in the morning, drive through a snowstorm out to Stroger, and you're praying and you're encouraging and you're doing all of those kinds of things to help others navigate their pain.
Mm-hmm.
You go through a separation, you go through a divorce, you're battling internally because your life was going in this direction, and then all of a sudden, now you're in a completely opposite direction. So now, how is this going to impact my son? How is this going to impact my grandkids? How is this going to impact the church? How is it going to impact my business relationships? How is it impacting me? Why do I feel like this? How did I not see this? How did I not address this? Am I not good enough? What's wrong with me? You're battling 1,000 conversations inside your head. Then you have the pressure because you still got to keep going. There's no, well, I'm going to take a year off and get myself together. No, you're going to come up here, you're going to preach this sermon, you're going to administrate, you're going to come and deal with the leaders, you're going to plant churches, you're going to continue your business here, Indianapolis, Houston. You're going to keep doing this stuff because if you don't, you're a punk, you're weak, you're not going to be able to survive because ain't nobody going to take care of you because you're a grown man. And so those pressures and those internal breaks don't have a place. Like most men don't have a place where they can go and be vulnerable. I fortunately have some very great men that are in my life that when I was at a very dark place, they reached out, not on some, apostle stuff, but how is David doing? Are you okay? What can I do for you? That's real ministry I'm talking about. Yelling and screaming at people, and God is going to do it. God is going to make a way. That's not what men need. Men need sit downs. We need time to unload and feel like we're valuable because a lot of men just don't feel valuable. I don't know if you saw the story, the white lady, she had read an article about men and the stuff that we go through. And she said, oh, men don't go through nothing. Y'all got it made. So she became a man. She put on the makeup. She became a man for a year. She wound up committing suicide after she experienced what men go through from women and society on a regular basis. It's all over the internet.
Oh my goodness. No, I didn't see that one. Oh my gosh. Okay. I'm gonna have to look
I'm
that
gonna
up.
send you the link.
Okay, please do. Please do. Because that in and of itself would just tell you, like you said, it all that pressure. You just don't know. Oh my goodness. All right. Make sure you send that to me. You guys that are here on Facebook, let me acknowledge a few of you on today. Thank you guys for coming in. I do appreciate you. Let's see, there's a comment here. Earl Winfrey says, whenever a Black successful man commits suicide, I question it. I believe him like Don Cornelius. I believe we're murdered. Ooh, okay. And that's always, you always think that, Earl? Is that? So you mean they didn't necessarily commit suicide, they died by the hands of someone else? Can you explain that a little bit more for me, Earl? Whether or not you think that all the time, or that is just something that kind of comes in your mind every once in a while? Let's see here. I see you, Queen Michi-san, over on Instagram. Thank you for coming in. I appreciate you. You guys make sure you tag individuals, tag some of my brothers, tag the sisters, into this live feed on today. I see you, my Aunt Rhonda. Thanks for coming in. I appreciate you. This is very deep because not too many people want to talk about it, but it has to be discussed. Apostle Rogers is talking to us about the real ministry, and then how to address, how to minister to these men. That is definitely going to be key, because the way you come at them is going to be very important. Like you said, yelling and screaming, sometimes you just got to sit and talk. Sometimes you just kind of come on, not necessarily the spiritual level, come on the natural level. How are you feeling today? Be honest about it. Apostle Rogers, I'm sure you remember this. When I first started this show 10 years ago, every week after I started, I would ask God, are you sure this is what you want me to do? I would question him so much. And I know he got tired of me, because every time I would ask him that, he would either somebody would inbox me, or I would see on the news about these pastors and apostles and men of God who were suffering from mental illness, depression, you name it. They would be in the pulpit ministering one Sunday. By the time the second service of that same day, they had committed suicide. The next week they were committed. They were just, because they were just under so much pressure. And some of them, they either weren't taking meds or what have you, but there was so much that they were dealing with that they said, I'm out of here. I'm done. And so God would continue to show me. He said, this is why this program, this broadcast needs to air. You need a safe space, number one, for people to talk and to deal with this big elephant that's in the room. And after so many, I think it was about a month after, I said, okay, I'm sorry, I'm questioning you, that's fine. I'm going to do this, right? Because we always kind of doubt ourselves a little bit, when we kind of start off with different things that we know the Lord has told us to do. But that threw me, seeing all of that. That was what, in 2013, 2014, you probably remember those various apostles and men of God.
It's close to 1,700 pastors a year commit suicide, and another 1,700 just walk away from the ministry. And so that discussion because one of the things we always hear from women is, my husband don't talk to me. Mm-hmm. Trying to lead you and then trying to articulate to you what I'm going through and I don't know is hard. Yeah. When men can't do something good, because we're demanded to be excellent in everything. You got to be Jeff Bezos financially. You got to be, a World Wrestling Federation, superstar in the bedroom. You got to be the best father in the world. You got to be the best spiritual leader. You got to be the best provider. There's no room for growth. There's no room for mistakes. There's no room for adjustments for men. Men have to be A1 all the time. We hear the conversation all the time on the internet now, the new narrative about relationships. If he ain't making six figures and he ain't doing this, and I don't want him. And the things that men have to navigate mentally and spiritually just to survive on the planet, most people don't understand, because they think we survive like women and children, and we don't. We are looked upon as being the resource. And so when you are the resource, people are drawing from you. They're not adding to you. They're not trying to push or advance you. And so there are very few places on the planet that are safe houses for men. All of the talk shows right now that are out are hosted by women. There are no talk shows for men.
Right.
So where do we go to get information? Where do we go for those who have no fathers? 75% of our children being raised without fathers. Where do young boys go to find out even how to be a man? To find out your identity, to find out how to govern your emotions when you're angry, when you're broken, when your heart is sad. How do you deal with that? Because when we play football, we're taught to be angry. Come on, y'all, be mad. And so most men, they're one-dimensional. The only emotion that they have that they feel comfortable expressing is anger. But when you have other emotions that come into play, how do you navigate that? Who's teaching that? Who's concerned about men? We got to find that out. And so I'm so glad you have the show. That's why I agreed to come on the show, because there are very few people that are discussing what's going on with men as a whole around the world.
Yeah.
Because it's just not an American phenomenon. This is international.
Sure. Ooh, okay. Yeah, and I appreciate you. It's every time I ask him, he's, oh, sure, I'll come on, especially, with topics like this, he does not mind dealing with it. I see you, I think it is, am I pronouncing it Tabori? Is it Tabori?
Bryant.
Bryant. Okay, thanks.
One of our elders in Indianapolis.
Oh, wonderful. Okay. Comment here from Tabori. None have the space to be honest with where they are without judgment and condemnation. Which is sad.
It's insult to injury.
Yeah.
Because when you finally do open up, you think you found a safe space. Now people are like, oh, look, he thought he was something. So now the undergirding criticisms and critiques of the fact that you have pain, people don't want to deal with it. So then it's just cast off. So now you go into a further shell.
Yeah.
So the ability to be vulnerable and transparent in most circles is non-existent.
We got to get out of there. We have to get out of that. I mean, we just gave the stats on those that commit suicide or walk away from the ministry or just give up, because of that. Thank you for that comment. We have to have a safe space for these discussions to be had, for men to even feel like, okay, I can go to, like you mentioned about your what do you call them, those that you can go to and talk to?
Yeah, that's my brothers.
Yeah, that's important. We women, we can have got sisters all day long. We can call them a girl, we can text them, we can inbox them. Wait, I had a girlfriend, one of my girlfriends, we had really just started our friendship, and she called me one day, and she had to release so much. We can do that so easily as women, but you guys need that. You need it.
But the functionality of women and men are different, and this is what is really bad when you have 20-somethings on social media trying to talk about interpersonal relationships. They've never been married. They've never come from healthy marriages, and now they want to cast aspersions on relationships they know nothing about. Men and women are different as night and day. God made us that way. Women are natural communicators. They were made from Adam's rib. So you guys are crockpots. You have the ability to internalize. Men, we were made from the mind of God. So we were given a job. The first thing that God gave Adam was 2 jobs. He said, dress and keep the garden. And so our logic is what drives us. So when we have to deal with emotion, now we got to come out of the masculine side and we got to come into the feminine side, because there's 2 natures in God. Let me deal with a little theology here. God's first name in the Bible is Elohim, which is the full counsel of God. That's where we get the mind of God. The other name for God used in the Old Testament is Adonai, which means the breasted one. So there is a nurturing side to God.
Mm-hmm.
We don't ever teach that side. We teach God as a judge, and he's going to strike you down with thunder and lightning. He's going to beat you up if you do wrong and all of this kind of stuff. You need to be holy, because holiness without which no man shall see the Lord. And we've made God into a dictator. God is merciful. God is gracious too. God is understanding. And so when you go to our churches, if it's 100 people in the room, 95 of them are women.
Yep.
Because men don't find the church safe, because the only message we get when we go to church is, you the head. God made you the head. You're supposed to be the head. Now go over there and do the head. And husbands, love your wife as Christ loved the church. And then we don't do anything in the reverse. We don't teach teach women how to communicate with men like men, because they're used to communicating with women like women. So the conversation that women have with men is like he's a woman. I'm not a woman. I'm a grown man. And you have to learn how to communicate with me, because that nagging and that arguing is driving me further away from you, because I'm not about to process your emotions. I want to know how to fix it. What's the solution? What do you want me to do? If you tell me what to do, I'm going to do it. I get this analogy in men's conferences all the time. The reason why men like football is because they huddle after every play. And instruction is given after every play. I don't have to guess, because we're not good at guessing. You want to get something to eat, let me know what you want to eat. What you want to eat? I don't want nothing. Then I go get something to eat. You eating off my plate. You just told me you didn't want nothing to eat. Now you mad because I ain't get you nothing to eat. You want me to know what's going on inside your brain. Tell me. But then you turn around and tell us we don't communicate. So we got to get this stuff fixed.
Yeah, we got to get it fixed. My goodness, look, I just had to throw my hands up there. I just had to throw them up because we are guilty women. Oh my goodness. Now I'm gonna tell you this. This is one little side note. I always tell my husband, you got to tell me what's going on in your mind. I say, I can't read your mind.
But see, this is the thing. We got to teach men how to figure that out, because weakness to us is a sign that it's all disintegrating.
Yeah.
And if I feel like I'm disintegrating, then I'm gonna look to medicate. Sure. So let me help, because I don't want to do this today. So in my ministry to men, you have guys that fall into different medication levels. So you got the player. He's gonna get as many women as he can, because sex for him is medication. So it's not about the woman, it's not cheating in his eyes, it's not that. It's, this is what I'm going to do to feel good. You got the alcoholic. I'm going to drown all my sorrows. I'm going to go to an alternative reality. You got the drug addict. He's going to drug his life away. You have the church addict. So you got a lot of guys that are in spiritual leadership, that are in the church. They're addicted to church because in the church, they get to exert power. They feel like they're in control. A person that's dealing with mental illness and depression, they feel like they have no control. There's nothing I can do about this, so I'm gonna take myself out. No matter what I say, no matter what I do, is good enough, so I'm gone. Deal with my absence, because you obviously don't appreciate my presence. Mm-hmm. And so these are the things that we're battling, and this is why our nuclear families become so important, because if you don't have a father and mother to balance you in your perspectives, then you go to extremes. Yeah. And so we're dealing with a culture of extremes right now, even in the church. You got folk have church 25 hours a day, 7 days a week, but can't live life outside of the building. You got $12 in savings, your kids running around burning the nursery school down, but you got tongues and battle axe tongues, and you shouting, dancing, and praising, running up and down the aisle, and your life is in shambles. And unfortunately, we've become allergic to the truth. Yeah.
Ooh, wait. Okay. All right. You had me in there. I see you guys. I see you guys. Let me see other comments here. Yet when the world is in disarray, the blame fall on the men. All right, Tabori, that is true. That is very true. There's a question here from Brandy. Let me go back up to it. Where's the safe place for men who deal with discouragement and depression without suffering the additional blow of being labeled weak and unfit? You've been kind of talking about that. Do you want to address that question?
Well, the thing we got to learn how to teach men to do is develop male relationships. Because there's some things that you just, and unfortunately, and this is a misfortune, there's just certain things you just cannot share with your mate until they get trained and developed and mature to deal with the different dimensions of manhood. Yeah, you got to be in the company of men. It's just like women. There's certain things that women need to talk to women about. Paul's exhortation, 1 Timothy, He said, older men teach the younger men, older women teach the younger women how to love their husbands and take care of their families at home. So that dynamic has to be in place, which means you're going to have to, if you want friends, the Bible says you have to prove yourself friendly. So you have to build those relationships. It may not start off with 1,000 dudes. You might just have 2 dudes. Like I got a group of like 5 guys that I know if I go to, and I can be David and they're not going to judge me. And so if I got issues in my heart, if I got to vent, because sometimes we don't have a place to vent because we always got something we got to do and accomplish. My son got a basketball game. My daughter got piano lessons. I got to get groceries in the house. The car needs the oil change. I got to cut the grass. Got to make sure the washing machine broke. She need her nails done, her hair done, her feet done. She needs new purse, shoes. She got to go to her mama's house in California. I got to get plane tickets. And we're running around in the performance mode while our identity mode is dying.
Okay.
You find this in the church, you talk to men, they say, well, my dad was home, but I don't really know him. He worked, he provided, he paid the bills, we had a place to stay, but my dad never told me he loved me. My dad never showed up to a game and supported me. So I know he loves me, but I don't know what that means because he and I don't have a relationship. I hear that all the time.
Yeah. That father figure is definitely needed. I hear so much about that. And it is true. Oh, okay. Brandy, hopefully that answered your question. Let's see. Exceeding grace. Let me go back down. Late on the convo. Glad to be here. Thank you, Jaquan. I hope I pronounced that correctly. Thank you for coming in. And this is Apostle dropped this knowledge today. I'm a man. Come on here. Yes. All right. This is good stuff. Make sure you guys, again, tag individuals. Let's see. Exactly. Tell me what you need. Closed mouths don't get fed. Let's see. I'm trying to scroll down to here because you're throwing in these comments so fast. I don't know what testimony, that testimony at all. Couldn't be around my dad. Oh, yeah. My heart goes out for those who, do have to deal with that. That didn't really have that father figure like they needed.
It's an ongoing trauma. I met a guy, I was coming back from Tampa. I was ministering in Tampa. He was sitting next to me and I watched what he was typing on his laptop. And he had gotten a grant from the University of Chicago to study post-traumatic stress syndrome in the Roseland community. So when I saw Roseland, I'm like, hey man, I happen to be a pastor in Roseland. What is that? And he told me he got a grant from the University of Chicago to study post-traumatic stress syndrome from school-age kids from 5 to 18. And he said fatherlessness is akin to an 18-year-old during 4 tours of duty in Vietnam. That's the level of post-traumatic stress syndrome that fatherlessness creates on a child because it is an ongoing trauma. In Vietnam, you get shot in your shoulder or your leg, they send you home. When your father is not there, every day he's not there is a reoccurring trauma.
Yeah.
So imagine getting shot every day, twice a day, 3 times a day. That's what's happening to our kids. 75% of our kids are being raised in that environment. So imagine the depth of mental health that needs to be addressed in our kids because mentally ill children become mentally ill adults. And we're trying to figure out why they're shooting up everybody. The violence stems from the lack of identity. I don't see any value. My father didn't value me enough to be around to impart anything to me. So you look like him. So all of this built up anger and resentment from being abandoned, I'm going to manifest that in gang culture, drug culture, violence culture, gun culture, sex culture. You got girls out here, 4 babies before they turn 21 because she's looking for a dad. So
Exactly. No, that's true. I mean, that's something I always say, Apostle, is that it starts from somewhere. It starts from somewhere. So that's very deep. Likening it unto what you say, 4 tours. That is a lot. That's a lot. And I'm telling you, we got to tackle this, and we can't just say we got to tackle it and then
Mhm.
don't do anything about it. You know what I mean? It has to be. It has to be addressed, which is why I always, appreciate you and your willingness to jump in and discuss this and tackle. Not only you're not just talk, you get out there and you do things. I already mentioned, he's an activist and all of that, and you're concerned, even about the area that you minister in. You're concerned about them and what life has dealt them. So I encourage each of you that are listening on here today, please, please, you gotta jump in. We gotta jump in with 2 feet, boots on the ground. We got to do something because those individuals that are out here that are carjacking. I just saw that crazy carjacking yesterday, right? The guy, they caught it on camera. Well, one of the businesses caught it on camera. This dude is literally jumped on top of a moving car because they would have had him jumped on top of a moving car and told that car to keep driving. I'm like, Jesus, what's going on in these minds that this is what you feel you have to do, but
But 60% of our criminal population suffer from mental health. But
Yeah.
Illinois is the #1 state in the union for defunding mental health.
yes,
They
yes,
closed Tinley Park, they closed Rockford. We had 12 mental health facilities in the city of Chicago. We're down to 5. They're getting ready to close another one because they just budgeted that out. And
Right.
so now we have schools full of PTSD kids. We've got a 65-year-old teacher that comes from Schaumburg into our Chicago public school system, and we're trying to force her to deal with 40 people in her classroom that are borderline insane.
Yeah, yeah,
So I don't know. These are things that we've discussed over and over again. At CPS meetings, Chicago Teachers Union meetings, workshops, Chicago State University, Governor State University, Malcolm X. Like we had a conversation over and over again,
Mhm.
and nothing is ever done about it. And so it's going to require somebody at the ground level to really take mental health seriously because we're
Yeah.
suffering big time.
Big time, major, major. I'm so glad you mentioned about here in Illinois about because that was the other aspect that we were going to talk about today as well, about the access to getting the mental health care that we need. Let's see here. Back on NAMI, under this heading here, Illinoisans struggle to get the help they need. So more than half of the people with a mental health condition in the United States did not receive any treatment in the last year. So of the 486,000 adults in Illinois who did not receive mental health care, 33.2% did not because of cost. So that's another factor, because they're just laying out all the factors here.
Mhm.
And it also says here, 7.3% of people in the state are uninsured. Now, when you go back to, every time I even think about or hear others talk about how Illinois, it just angers me so how they just close down the different, institutions, and all for what? Not because they didn't have the money. I didn't understand it. That's why, they didn't have the money to run these facilities. And, it was just a lot of greed. And then my thing is, okay, what do you think is going to happen when you shut down these facilities? Where are they going to go? Where are people going to go? They're out here in the streets. They're doing the carjacking I just told you, and so many other different things. You're going to say something.
I was going to say they're going to send them to prison. So they're consistently building new prisons. 138 billion here, 92 billion here, 10.2 billion here for prisons. There are more state prisons in the state of Illinois than state colleges. So as we assess our political, I don't even know what to call it now,
Right.
our politics, we got to begin to ask some questions. Why is the investment in the criminal industrial complex greater than mental health and education combined? combined. Anybody can look it up online. So this is what I do for a living. I'm trying to figure out what's the root of the problem. And
Mhm.
so the numbers that you have here, you have 50,000 people that need mental health, but the $300 an hour therapist they can't afford.
Right.
So is this why they shut down Obamacare? Because if we give people mental health, they don't criminalize. And that $426,000 a year that these prison and private prisons get per prisoner doesn't come. So maybe we need people to be sick and criminalized so we can keep this industry going.
Mm.
That's what I think the issue is. We've got to care enough about ourselves to really question the platform of these politicians, because many of them are heavily invested in the prison industrial complex.
Yeah, yeah, they are. It's true. It's showing, whether they want to admit it or not. It is showing. I was just talking with a young man on Sunday, and just broke my heart. I mean, unfortunately, this stuff is happening more and more and more. And he mentioned about a good friend of his who unfortunately had just gotten shot a few days before. He's only 18. And I'm talking to him and he's expressing his feelings, about the death of his friend. He said, but you know what? He said, that's 5 of my friends. He said, I'm only 18.
Mhm.
5 of his friends. And, he said, I tried to talk to the young man because he thinks he might have been involved in some stuff or whatever he should have been involved in. And I said, well, you know what? I'm trying to tell him, okay, maybe you need to get some therapy or whatever. I said, but you don't take it upon yourself and feeling bad because you tried to pull him out of what he was in. You did what you could do. But that just hurt my heart to the core when he said, I'm only 18 and that's the 5th one so far. He's not still a baby to me. You know what I mean? But this is what we're looking at. This is what is happening, being portrayed right in front of us. And
They had a study on sexual abuse in the church, and the study said I think it was 2 out of 6 men in our churches have suffered sexual abuse, and like 4 out of 10 women have suffered sexual abuse from people that they know.
okay.
So now here you have this layered trauma, and people come to church, their sons are getting shot, their daughters are having babies out of wedlock, they're going through divorces because both parties are mentally ill, so they can't sustain a successful marriage. The children are left in the wake. They go to a school full of other traumatized kids, and then we expect our culture and society to be healthy without any intervention. The church's answer for it is a praise break.
Mm-mm.
Nah,
Mm-mm.
we need real sustainable ministry. We got to deal with the whole issue of poverty. This is why I hammer business so much, because finances buy you time. We need time. 4 hours a week at church ain't changing nobody.
Mm.
We need time with people. We need time for people to sit down with therapy. I had to go to a therapist. I had to get beat up. She was beating me up and making me refocus. Apostle, well, why didn't you see this? Why didn't you do this for yourself? Why do you feel like you're not important?
Yeah.
Why don't you think that you matter? Why are you sacrificing everything you have for everybody else, and you're leaving yourself out there, and now you're feeling like this? So if you don't have people that can properly assess you and bring you to discovery so you understand where you are, you just keep moving the way you've been moving, and it's not improving you.
Yeah. Yeah.
So these are critical issues that you're bringing up.
Very much so. Very much so. And, I've always, even throughout these 10 years, encouraged therapy, professional counseling, Christian counseling, if you will, as well. I had to, and I'm so glad you're being transparent and sharing. And I've shared this last year, when the Lord blessed me to write my book. I'm going through this book, Apostle, call myself, okay, I'm finally writing this thing, right?
Mhm.
Ooh, the subject title, it broke me down so, and it was hard for me to write, but I knew I had to, and I was commissioned to, right? So I knew I needed to finish it. And like in the beginnings of it, and I'm writing down about my experience, and I started breaking down. I broke down so bad that I would have, it wasn't just no one time. I think probably after the second or third time, my husband's like, babe, you think you need to get some therapy? And I'm thinking about saying, oh yeah, be a good idea, but I'll wait till after I'm through with the book. Wrong. That stayed on me, and then later, I mean, I'm like, next morning, I'm like, I need to get, so I had to go through and receive therapy while I was writing this book, while I'm going through this, because that wasn't an easy feat. You talking about your brother that was murdered, and you're going through all, I'm like really reliving everything, So I'm so grateful that I had somebody in my corner to push me in that direction. And then my therapist, I just love her. I love her to life. I mean, she was just what I needed, then. And so, that's why we encourage that, because it's helpful. Don't always think that, must be something wrong with you. You get to go get a therapist, you little, loco up there, people may say, and they just dismiss it. No, I think if more of us would embrace it, we would get the help. Listen, we're at the top of the hour here, and if you guys are just now joining us, we are talking today. This is our second segment of 2023. We're talking with Apostle David A. Rogers, and our topic title on today, depression. When the call for help goes untreated, how do you manage the pain? And if many of us would be honest with ourselves, we've been in places like that. We've been in those dark places. And I see some of your posts on social media. I know. Someone just put up the other day, a good friend of mine, she just put 2 words, I'm tired. Someone in the comment section did like one of those pics or emojis or whatever of telling her to go to sleep. She said, no, not that kind of tired. You know what I mean? Right. Not that right. Tired. Not that I just need to go and get some sleep. She was tired, and you can feel individuals, their pain and what it is that they're dealing with. So this is not. I know it's a sensitive topic. It has to be discussed. We got to do something about it so that we won't lose more people. We have to change this narrative. Let me hop back over here. Facebook, Joseph Smith, I see you joined us, come in. Latoya Lloyd, I see you. Ida Gill, I see you. Auntie Ida, just had your birthday yesterday. Kim Brewster, thanks for coming in. Let's see here. Am I missing any other comments on here? I see something here. Facts. I know of at least 7 people who desperately need therapy. They or suffer from mental illness. Not one of them can afford it. Oh yeah, you're talking about affording it. And some people don't have the health insurance because I think it's opening up more that the therapists are you are able to go through your insurance to get them to pay for it, and we're grateful to those who have it. But my goodness, there are others, and you know what? Reach out. There are, you can go to NAMI, you can go to different other ones. I know, and I can't think of off the top of my head where you can get, I don't want to say free, but with some assistance with it. Hopefully, if I can think of it, I can put it in the comments section.
One of the things we initiated during COVID, because as I was going through my process, I recognized and realized that our church didn't even have an assessment tool to discern people who were joining our church to see if they needed mental health therapy. And so one of my good friends, Dr. Kenneth Taylor, he's an elder at my dad's church. I called him because he works in that field for a living. And I said, can you come and do some training with my elders on on mental health from a pastoral perspective. And so he came and did 10 weeks of mental health training with our elders. And so now that is a standard class that they have to take every year in order to keep their license. They have to take that 10-week course and that upgrade course. And so out of that, two of my elders, LaShawn and Ted Wallace, they've started a mental health organization called Zebulon. And so what they do is they actually go to churches and they train church elders in what they've learned in non-thetical pastoral counseling. So how to identify someone who's dealing with mental health issues, depression, suicide, overeating, over-medicating, all of those things that stem out of that. And then how do you deal with that from a clinical perspective as Christians? So that there's an army and a battery of people as resources in the church, because the reality is most of our people cannot afford $300 for 30 minutes to talk to a therapist. And so we got to create at least a buffer for people to begin the process until we get them to that place where they can really go to clinical psychologists and therapists and deal with all of the plethora of issues that are in our church. And again, this is not to negate the power of God and prayer and fasting, but sometimes because we are not educated, we one-line people to death as if their issues are not valid and don't need something in conjunction with what our faith provides. So, yeah, I'm an apostle. I love God. I'm baptized in the Holy Spirit. I speak in tongues. I had to go talk to a therapist.
Yes.
And it's someone that was trained to get past those levels that I didn't understand about me and why I was feeling a certain way, why my thoughts went this way instead of this way. And I did that, and it helped, along with talking to my friends and all that other stuff.
Exactly. Listen, as you're talking, I'm going to pull something else up, but tell me the name of that the organization that you started.
It's called Zebulon Health Solutions. Matter of fact, I'm going to put her number in here in the chat for you.
Okay, and the name of it again, so that those, because I see they're hopping on here. I'm asking about the free therapy sessions. Oh my goodness, Brady said that's brilliant, and I think it is as well. I think it was brilliant that you felt led to have your elders trained, and that's a part of them continuing on with their license. We need that, man. I'm telling you, we need that, because too many people, we separated so much, the church and the mental health aspect. It should not be separated. You have recognized that is something that has to be dealt with. That's just like when you start talking, that's just like law enforcement. They need to be trained, how to handle those individuals who are having a mental health crisis. And we've seen, situations where that really would have come in handy if they had known. So
well, I was a former police officer, and nothing could be further than the truth.
Right.
We need law enforcement to do law enforcement stuff, and we need psychologists and trained therapists to do their stuff.
Come on.
I'm gonna post it in Facebook as well.
Okay, please do. There is, let's see, I saw something on social media where somebody said, and I'm only saying this because you mentioned about the church and the mental health aspect. Someone, I saw, and it kind of disturbed me a little bit. They said everything isn't mental illness. Well, okay, you can kind of agree with that in a sense. But it says a lot of what we're seeing are demons and must be cast out in Jesus' name. Well, they went on, basically to kind of denounce, if you will, the mental health aspect in terms of getting the help that we need. They just want to just slap some oil on it and just keep it moving. That's what I got from that. I saw.
That's that religious pride rooted in ignorance. And this is why Hosea 4:6 will be my scripture as long as I live. My people are destroyed for lack of knowledge. Paul, the apostle, who we get 2/3 of our New Testament from, was a trained lawyer and psychologist. This is why almost all of his verses, every book, you see something about being transformed in the mind. He doesn't spend a whole chapter talking about casting out devils. Yeah, we got to cast out devils. Yeah, people get demonized. But that is not the sole crux of what we have to deal with when you deal with people. We are body, soul, and spirit.
Mhm.
And the soul realm deals with the mind, the will, and the emotions. So yeah, be baptized in the Holy Ghost, be saved, do all of that. But please understand, your soul realm needs specific attention and healing and building and rebuilding for as long as you will live. Suicide is in the Bible. Moses had a relationship with God and he wanted to kill himself. Elijah he was fighting all of the prophets of Baal and had fire fall down from heaven. And Jezebel wrote him a letter. He wound up under a tree saying, God, kill me. Moses said, I'm tired of these people. God, if I found favor in your sight, kill me now. These people are wearing me out. This is the cry of Moses. And his solution, God sent his uncle Jethro and said, you need to find 70 men in the nation to deal with these smaller matters, and you deal with the bigger matters. Yeah. So the answer for leaders is equipped leaders. So when people abandon their leaders and they're not willing to support and undergird leaders, you're exposing them. Just like we cover you, you're supposed to be covering us. We got to be able to depend on you to deal with some of these smaller matters so we're not worn out. But people don't see the value in being an Aaron and Hur and holding the arms of their leaders up. Everybody wants to do their own thing. I need to be the head honcho. You don't want this job. Please believe me, you do not want to be a senior pastor. Because you think it's just preaching. Ain't got nothing to do with preaching. That's preaching. You could preach without being a senior pastor. When you become the senior pastor and you have souls and responsibilities for people's eternal life, that is a completely different ball of wax. Yeah. And so whether you see a false person doing it or not, those of us who are doing it for real, they got to carry this for real. We need you. As a pastor, I'm going to plead and beg and tell you, we need you. I don't care if you think we're the greatest thing since sliced bread. Every senior pastor on this planet needs that support system, because what goes on with us after a Sunday service, after a Bible study on Tuesday, after we preach a funeral, after we have to go and get people's kids out of prison and deal with folks on the verge of divorce or going through a divorce, and we trying to bring people back to life. It is very discouraging. It is disheartening. It is heartbreaking. It is mentally traumatic to deal with what we deal with every single day. When you leave church on Sunday, you go home. Right. We still pastor. So just as a pastor, if your pastor never tells you, we need you.
Yeah. You need to be poured back into, you expend so much. I think that we have to understand that as your parishioners, as your church members. Listen, you guys, look at the bottom. I pinned at the bottom on Facebook, Zebulon Mental Health Solutions, Elder LaShawn and Ted Wallace. And the number is there. If you or someone else that you know, because I know someone mentioned about others that they know they could use the therapy, maybe they just can't afford it. Please. And I had no idea that there was something that was established through your organization, through your church, and how it all came about. So this is perfect on today. Zebulon Mental Health Solutions. Please make sure you reach out to them. Those of you that are here in Illinois, do they have? Would you happen to know if they do? Because I know when COVID started, a lot of therapists started doing online therapy.
Yeah.
As well. Do they do that as well?
Yes.
Okay. Because it's important. We have people that watch from all over, and they may not be here in Illinois. So that's good to know as well. Make sure you guys reach out to them. All right. I'm going to scroll back up here to comments, questions. This is a great topic. We're talking today again, if you're just not joining us, depression. When the call for help goes untreated, how do you manage the pain? And my guest, of course, is Apostle David A. Rogers. It's not a new topic, but has to be addressed appropriately, not labels, not statistics, but human beings. I like that. Thank you, Tabor. Okay. I've missed a whole lot, guys. Y'all was just really.
Going in.
Scott says here, in my opinion, we need to have a safe space amongst ourselves at a younger age first. Like I'm having more open and honest conversations about actual feelings with friends in our 40s. I guess that's the age bracket where you're not really caring what others think than we did in our teens and early 20s. We couldn't talk about a lot of things out of fear of our boys making fun of us. We probably would have been much more well-adjusted had we had outlets sooner, much rather than later. And in most cases, that comes in the form of therapy. He's constantly saying, imagine how we be now if we had these kinds of talks then. The weak and unfit label comes from upbringing. Think about how boys are raised versus girls. Boys aren't raised to be expressive or sensitive. You feel bad, hurt, you hurt, push through and keep it moving. Boys don't cry. Ooh, Scott says, I'm at work, so I'll try to revisit the video later. Well, I don't know how you did all that while you was at work, because that was a whole paragraph, but I do thank you for sharing that. And that is so true. Apostle, you want to touch on that? And you kind of touched on that a little bit earlier.
Well, it's the facts. Our lack of really focusing on the nuclear family has us in a very dangerous place. I was with a bishop here recently, just last week, and he was talking about the impact of COVID and isolation that took place 2020, 2021, and that we are just now feeling the impact of what that caused in people. And so we're watching teenagers just go up in Louis Vuitton and crash all of the windows and just grab bags and watches, and kids just wilding out and people stabbing people and doing all kind of weird stuff. And he's saying that this is just the beginning. And if we don't quickly begin to move to organize and strategize and mobilize against mental health issues, we're going to be overwhelmed in the next few years when it metastasizes and begins to grow, because it's burning out of control. And I firmly agree with every statement that he made, that this is something, organizations like Zebulon, we got to get a database of information to see where other mental health organizations are that we can partner with to help them grow, identify, train, and recruit mental health therapists, send them to school, because we need people that are trained in this arena, because it's getting beyond bad.
Yeah. Beyond bad. But there is hope. That's my theme for this year, for Mind, Body, and Soul. There is hope. So even when you guys are listening to this today, even what Apostle gave us, Zebulon, that's hope. There's hope there. We can address this and get the help that we need. Let's see here. I read that already. He was abusive, and the last time I got to be. Oh, okay, Tabori. Thank you. I meant to read that earlier because he was talking about his dad and how he was abusive, and but you had a chance to be with him before his passing. Okay. Thanks for sharing that. Let me scroll down. Okay. Who else did I miss? Joseph, there are free therapy options if you are open to group sessions in some states. All right, thank you. Similar to how dental schools will do low-cost teeth cleaning. All right, thank you for that. Yeah, we can get the help, guys. Joseph also says if you're a Christian, it is impossible to walk out of a therapist session without more to pray about. Oh, okay. Yeah, therapy you will be pulling back a whole lot of layers. I learned so much about myself, Apostle Rogers, writing the book and going through therapy. I learned much more about myself than I even really realized, before. I'm like, wow, okay, where did all this come from? You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. But I was grateful. I'm still grateful that I had that experience. because it opened my eyes up to so many things. And I don't take it for granted. Let's see. How do you know what to cast out if you don't know the source of your actions? Therapy gives you language. Come on, Joseph. Come on. Because I say that all the time. We come in, to church. We say we're gonna pray. Come up, get in the prayer line. And the pastor already said he's not knocking the prayer, neither am I. But you have to recognize and understand what it is that the individual is dealing with. You come up and get, what am I praying for you for? What is it? I can't just don't slap no oil on my head and say a few words and just send me back. I'm gonna go back out the same way I came in.
Period.
We need to know what it is that we are dealing with. What are we addressing? What is it? So don't be afraid of that. Thank you for that comment. Sounds like someone who may be suffering from mental illness. Willful dedication to severe ignorance to support your ideology is also a form of mental illness. Oh, you're probably referencing that post that I read. Okay. All right. Thanks, Brandy. Tabori says people just need someone that understands, love, and redirection of what they've had to endure through life. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Deirdre says here, many Christians are quick to recognize diseases and illnesses concerning the body and get treatment. Come on. But slow to recognize diseases and illnesses of the mind. If they have diabetes, they will go to the doctor, but refuse to get treatment for the mind. Oh, yeah. All right. This is good stuff. I always told myself if I had any kids, especially a son, I would do everything in my power to give him the space and freedom to express himself and talk about how he feels, to be righteously honest with himself. Everything I stopped doing at about age 11 or 12 and had to relearn starting in my 20s. Thank you, Scott, for sharing that. Do you want to address that last point? What Scott said there?
No, I mean, it's the truth. I mean,
Yeah.
we got the earlier we start, the better the outcomes, because things grow over time. And so a lot of what we're dealing with in our community are unaddressed issues. And it's mostly unaddressed because we weren't trained or taught or encouraged to even examine the issues.
Right.
And so there's a solution for everything. Poverty, everything that created racism, all of these things are very real. And until we get serious about addressing it at length, these things are going to continue to metastasize. And so I'm just grateful for the people that are in my life and the people that have submitted themselves to being prepared and being a resource for our people. So that's what I'm grateful for today.
Okay. Can I ask you, I mean, this is kind of off my questions here, but can I ask you, how often do you yourself come in contact? I mean, I know you're a pastor. I know you work in the community. How often do you come in contact with someone who is transparent enough to tell you, hey, I've been dealing with these suicidal thoughts?
Probably about twice a week, because I minister to pastors. Like my primary ministry is to leaders. So pastors, their wives, musicians, business people. So that's my primary audience every day. So in the business community, it's heavy as well. We talk about pastors all the time, but there's a lot of people in the business community, they're on the edge as well. A lot of people lost a lot of their livelihood during COVID. And so a lot of people are trying to recover, they're trying to figure things out. They've lost their family, the deaths. We still have not dealt with the trauma of losing people. We were fortunate in our church because God gave us a word in October of 2019 before COVID hit. So we didn't have anyone in our church die from COVID. Now we have mental health workers that contracted the disease because they're working in COVID wards. We had 3. By the grace of God, they made it out, but we didn't get what other people got. I know churches, they pastor's wife, musician, superintendent, all of these individuals passed from COVID because they didn't believe they needed to wear a mask. They didn't believe they needed to get vaccines. They didn't believe that they needed to social distance. Jesus is going to be my healer. Now they're not here. So now you have entire church suffering. The kids are left behind. Everybody's suffering because we just want to be religious. We don't want to obey what's set forth to keep us alive, as if science and doctors and medication and all of that kind of stuff is from the devil. And I keep telling people, I've been getting vaccinated since I was in kindergarten. I'm vaccinated in the military. There's no microchip in the vaccine that's going to make you a devil. Like, stop it. Like, all this conspiracy theory stuff. So we gotta really help people. I mean, this is facts, and we gotta focus on rebuilding our nuclear families, because people are being traumatized every day because we're not making that a primary cause of, or effort or focus on what it is that we do. Because sometimes when you get to 20, it's too late.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would agree. That's a high number, Apostle, that you coming in contact with on a weekly basis. That's
Who's helping them?
right.
We say we love Jesus, but when it comes down to actually getting involved in people's lives, they're not there. And so, because God has me in so many arenas, and I had to go through my experience to really understand it, because I was dealing with mental health stuff prior to. I've been a part of Christian Coalition on Mental Health for 7 years. I've done workshops and stuff on it. I never experienced it.
Mm-hmm.
But when I experienced it, it added weight to it, because I began to understand it, not just from a clinical, technical perspective, but from a personal experience perspective.
Yeah.
It was dark, and I'm a happy person. And you can be happy and go lucky and all of that, and still a part of your soul can bring you to a very dark place. And that's why I got to.
Mm-hmm.
And thank God for all my friends, and thank God for therapy, thank God for prayer, thank God for my encouragers, because when you're going through this stuff, you become very pessimistic.
Mm-hmm.
And so now it ain't nothing good enough. Everything is bad. And you judge everything because you're feeling some type of way. And so when you get healed, you remove those blinders off, the light comes back on, and now you can live life from a more expressive, happy, joyous place, because God is cleansing out all of that junk and that gook and that hurt and that pain. It no longer becomes the priority. You become the priority.
Mm. As you're talking about the different things that you were grateful for and thankful, I was thinking it was a blessing that you even had the presence of mind to realize that you were in that dark place. Some people don't realize that they're in that dark place, that, you said you were slowly going down. Some people spiral fast. Some people do spiral slow, but they don't even realize, or even, have someone to say, hey, you need to do something about that. Hey, something's going on. Something's, changing, about you. So that is a blessing in and of itself, because, I don't know. I just, my heart just goes out to people who are just, they're dealing with things silently. They're dealing with it silently, meaning they're not talking about it. They're not addressing it. They're thinking, oh, maybe, no, that can't be depression. No, that can't be, it's got to be something else, or just not taking it head on. So I'm grateful. What do you think? And I can just about imagine brought you to that point, though, to make you realize.
Well, I have a son and grandbabies. So before I jumped off the cliff, because I was on a cliff, I was getting ready to jump. I was just like, I don't need this. I'm tired. And that mental, spiritual, emotional exhaustion is way more dangerous than anything else, because that's what's going to make you pull that trigger. That's what's going to make you eat them pills. I was getting ready to take pills.
Yeah.
And I know it was God. Like, are you really going to leave this legacy to your son and your grandbabies? So it forced me to have to reach out. Mm-hmm. And I reached out to one of my friends, and he allowed me to talk. And then he gave me something back. Apostle Kelvin Easter gave me something back. He didn't judge me. We didn't try to figure out a solution. So this is another thing that we got to really learn to master in the church, is we got to begin to respect people's pain. We're very dishonorable of people's pain. You know, somebody dies, we want to be the first one to put the obituary up on Facebook. They own family haven't even got a chance to process the issue that their loved one is gone, and we all on there trying to get likes because, oh, this was my friend, and we go way back. Can you allow the family some time to process it first before you just put it all over social media? So it's that kind of stuff. We don't respect people's pain. He respected my pain. He allowed me to talk. He gave me what his perspective was. He asked questions, and he didn't try to give me a church answer for something that was multi-layered that was going on inside of me.
Mhm.
And that's what we need, especially as men. Go pray about it. I've been praying for 36 years, bro. This ain't a prayer issue right now. I'm getting ready to take these pills. I'm cutting up out of here. That's what I'm finna do. At that point, you got to respect the person's pain and listen to what they're going through, because they're really saying nobody's listening to me. And that's what I got. That was the benefit of what I got. And from that, okay, I need to go talk to somebody. This is a little bit bigger in terms of how this is impacting me than I thought, because we love to tell ourselves we okay. That's what we do as men. Oh, I'm all right. We shake it off, just like the brother said in the comment. We shake it off. Oh, I'm all right. We play hurt.
Yeah.
We have a theology for suffering in the church that forces us to commit suicide, because we don't want to deal with suffering. We don't want to deal with it. Oh, I'm a soldier in the army of the Lord. Okay, what do they do when a soldier gets shot? We take them off the field. People don't even understand what a pastor has to go through to get in a pulpit on Sunday. We never process his Monday through Saturday. We just assume because he's there, he's all right. And because the Lord is using us, that don't mean we're not battling. The hardest part of the day is after you get through preaching. You empty, you wide open. Folk won't even come pray for you after you get through preaching. They just assume it's all right because we're so ignorant of the spirit realm. Oh, he preached good. I feel good. Boom, let me go and put my dollar in the bucket. Let me go on. Well, I got stuff to administrate as soon as I leave here. I got to go to 2 hospitals. As soon as I leave church Sunday, at the preach, pray, and prophesy, I got to go to 2 hospitals and pray for somebody's mama that's sick and their daddy that's sick. So we got to really learn to honor one another's pain, because it's really bad.
Honor one another's pain. I like that. I'm gonna have to write. I'm writing that down. I'm gonna have to use that. And you know, it sounds simple, but that's profound. As you were talking, and you know about your experience and how you were able to go and to just talk. He allowed you to talk. One of those pastors that I mentioned earlier that had committed suicide, he actually, and it came out after his death, had been counseling or being that ear for one of his members in the church who tried to commit suicide. As soon as he found out that that person was trying to commit, that young man said he called him every single day after, you know, the attempt to make sure that he was okay. He was that ear for that young man, but he needed an ear because unfortunately
there was no reciprocation.
Right.
So in Galatians, it says that those who receive the word should communicate with those who teach. There is an expectation of relationship, no matter what level it's at, that is going to be appreciated and reciprocated. Just simple stuff. Just you showing up in a building lets a pastor know, okay, all of this studying and praying and fasting I did to get this word, it matters.
Yeah.
For some people, we take no consideration on what people have to do. The praise team get up there and worship, they better sound good. We don't even take into consideration they're had arguing with their kids, their bills ain't paid. You know, we paying musicians $10,000 a Sunday. The praise team singer ain't got a quarter. But they better be in E flat, and that E flat better sound right, and they better get up there and get that mic and make me feel good, or I ain't coming to this church no more. And we completely dishonor all of the sacrifice they made. All of our administrators that are not in the pulpit is working behind the scenes. They count money and trying to make bills due and trying to make sure the lights stay on in the church. We don't even consider what they have to go through to do their job because we're so ignorant of people's processes. We're so hard is the term I want to use in terms of other people's responsibility, that we don't even see how God has sent us into certain people's lives to be that assistance, to be that encouragement, to be that blessing, so that what we need as a whole can continue to manifest.
Empathy, compassion.
Mm-hmm.
It's missing. It's missing.
It's hardly ever taught about.
Yes. So I totally agree with that. I agree with that.
You got haters. That's the message.
We got what?
You have haters. That's the message. Everybody hates you. A person that's suicidal, and this is what they preach to the church. So now the lost guy that comes to our church thinking that they're in an environment of love and safety and peace and camaraderie and unity, that they hear everybody hates you from the pulpit.
Yeah.
So now that becomes a self-fulfilled reality. Now I don't have an expectation of these individuals other than they hate me. What are we doing?
What are we doing?
The person that's preaching it is mentally ill.
Come through now. Come through.
Yes.
Oh, wait. Okay. All right. Joseph, we can't tell the kids to be silent for 18 years and expect them at 18 to be emotionally mature. Yeah. All right. Who else here? Okay. Let's see. Well, it's hard to see the cycle when you're dead smack in the middle of it. Tabori says, I have to be a God thing for, it has to be a God thing for me to see a son or sons, how I'm feeling about the current state of the world. Okay, we have enough battles as it is, being who we are as a people, let alone Black men. My hands are busy with product, just listening. Okay, Tabori, I get it. Most of these leaders need to own our own part in causing folks to go the other way rather than being sensitive to those situations. Talk about it. Create a plan of redirection, healing, then pray. Yeah, I agree. Anything else I missed over here? I see you on her way over on Instagram. Thank you. I appreciate you for coming in. Trained and unbiased. Sometimes our wise counsel is not only untrained, but they are biased towards us. All right. I don't know if thank you, dear, just for that comment. I'm scrolling back up, guys, to make sure I didn't miss anything so far that you have put into the comment section. This is such a loaded conversation. You can never really get through it. Just talk on it. Marcus Hill, I think, for coming in. Sheena Harrison King, we appreciate you as well. Many of you that came in after I called names. Let's see. Okay, I read that comment from Tabori. All right. Yeah. You know, I don't know. We have to not be afraid. And that's, again, what I always appreciate about you, Apostle Rogers, not being afraid to touch on these subjects here. But this suicide, guys, is real. It's real. And, it comes from somewhere. We can't just dismiss it.
Well, dealing with those issues gets rid of the fear of self-image. Because when you're damaged, you're trying to present yourself as invincible and invulnerable and you got it and all of that kind of stuff, because that's the projection we've been given for leadership. We know everything, we do everything well, we got it. And I don't. I tell my church all the time, I'm not the fourth person of the Godhead. Do not call me baby Jesus. I'm just a guy with an assignment. So don't expect me to be floating 10 feet up off the air at any given moment because I hear from God. I got issues like everybody else. I struggle like everybody else. I battle with everybody else. and I need help like everybody else.
Yeah, yeah,
Raise
yeah.
humility, then you won't have to have that pressure of trying to perform into some expectation you think people have of you. Because no matter what you do, if you succeed or you fail, they're gonna talk about you anyway.
Mhm.
So help the people that you can help, do your job, and maintain your integrity with God in the process.
Yeah, I like that. I like that. And that's good. Humility is definitely the way. That's the way to go. Listen, how would you the individual comes to you? I mean, I know you can refer to the therapist. What are some things that you, Apostle Rogers, some things that you do now to kind of, you went through that, situation where you had that dark time and you just want to get rid of it all. What kind of steps do you take to make sure that you don't revisit that place or to help strengthen you to move forward? What are some of the things that you do yourself now?
Well, the main thing that I do is I listen to myself. So if an individual came to me and said they had a problem, I would listen. One of the things we've learned through therapy is I've just learned to listen to myself. I put myself in a place of sacrifice because there's things that I didn't want other people to go through. So I overexerted myself and over introduced myself into situations that I should have just paid attention to and then referred them to somebody else. So because I love so hard, that became my catalyst for always trying to be somewhere for somebody else. But I wasn't listening to me. So if I get tired, oh well, we got to keep going because they need me to be here for this and this. I'm gonna be there for you, and you're trying to be a support to everybody. And what you're really doing is you're trying to give what you yourself really need, and then you wind up exhausting yourself because you don't have nothing else to give. So what I do now is I listen to myself. If I don't feel like it, somebody call me and I don't feel like talking, I don't answer the phone.
I
You
get it.
text me and I don't feel like it, I'm not texting you back. You have a great service planned and scheduled. If I don't feel like going, I'm not going. God bless you. I love you. I wish you well, but I can't be there more for you than I am for myself. So what I've done, my shift has been prioritizing myself.
Okay.
I put myself first now. So the analogy is there's two people in a boat and the boat starts to sink. Who survives? The person that can swim.
Mm,
They always tell you on the airplane, if the cabin decompresses, when the oxygen mask go down, put your mask on first, then help everybody else put their mask on.
right.
So that's what I've learned. I just made a shift. I matter. I mean something to me. I love all y'all. Y'all great. And if I can help you, I will. But helping you is not the priority at this point. Me surviving is my priority at this point.
Okay. How has that been for you? Has it been easy to do that?
No, I've been in leadership my whole life. I'm the oldest. When I was gang banging, I was a leader. When I came into the church, I've been a leader 36 years. So it's very hard for me to play second. So I'm learning it. It's fun. It's definitely a new adventure because you learn more about people when you tell them no than when you tell them yes.
You can say that again.
So I've learned the power of my no, and I've learned that if they don't like it, it don't matter.
Yeah, that's true.
But I still got to do what I got to do anyway.
You
So
do.
it's really been liberating. And so the difficulty is not falling back into that same trap of trying to be there and help everybody who really don't want the help. They just want to use you anyway.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And once they use you up, you commit suicide. They come to your funeral, eat chicken and macaroni, and they're going to go home. They're going to find another pastor to destroy. So love you. God bless you. But I understand my assignment.
Right, right. No, that's that's real. It's not funny or whatever. That's true. That is so true. And I ask that because I'm quite sure this is not easy because you like you said you had to basically formulate and redirect yourself, to do, and that's not something easy to do. But we got to listen to ourselves. We have to prioritize ourselves, or else, that burnout will come and then it'll escalate. You have that slow spiral, like Apostle Rogers was referencing earlier, about himself. So I just
let me say this let me say this to single moms and single dads.
Mhm.
Do not overcompensate your pain in the lives of your kids. Because I found out that I was doing that with my son.
Okay.
I was overextending myself into arenas he really didn't need me to be in. And it was creating conflict because I kept seeing him as my baby versus a grown man. And I hope that helps somebody. Because sometimes we overcompensate with our kids and we're trying to get them things they really didn't even ask for. And it becomes an annoyance versus a blessing.
Mm-hmm.
I thought I'd throw that in.
The hindrance for both you and him then.
Yeah.
Yeah. Ooh-wee. All right, I'm hopping back over here. Facebook. Most of these leaders need to own our own part in causing folk. Did I read that already?
Yes.
Oh yeah, I did. It's a really good compliment though. But yeah, guys, this is something, and I hope that those of you that are listening today have heard something that can help you. I mean, I asked, Apostle those follow-up questions about things that he's doing, so that maybe it can kind of help and encourage you, or you can, help someone else out with this. I believe, I can't remember when that number came out. Of course, when you hear about suicides now, that new number 988, and you can call or text, reach out to if that's something that you need help with. The 988 number, I should have mentioned it at the beginning of this segment. So that's, what the world has done on the natural level, something that you can, number you can call, if that's some of the things that you're feeling that you just can't handle and you just kind of want to give up, call that number, reach out. Again,
what's that number, sis, so I can put it on my Facebook?
988. 988. Mm-hmm.
Oh.
And I was trying to think of when that came out, when they actually established that number. Let me see if this will tell me when. It's just a 3-digit number. And it says here it's staffed by trained counselors. It's a community nationwide number, right, that people can reach out to. But I think the first thing, and we talked about this again with Apostle Rogers, is kind of acknowledging where you are. You have to know yourself. You definitely have to know yourself. So acknowledging where you are and seeing if, I might need for help with this. I can't, some changes in yourself. I'm not functioning like I normally, would. This is aggravating me more than it has in the past, or, you have to understand and know when it is that you need to reach out for help, how to reach out. And this 3-digit number is it's easy. Oh, it started July 16th, I guess last year. Yeah. Well, that's interesting. Okay. Yeah. But I'm glad they have it. Yep. First step in reimagining the crisis response. So they realized this was something that needed to happen. Okay, now, guys, I know that Apostle Rogers is, like I said at the beginning, this is not his first time being on Mind, Body, and Soul. So what I want you to do, Apostle, before we get out of here on today, there's so many things that you have done since you have been on our show. Some things that have transpired within the last year. I want you to talk to everybody about what you're doing, where they can find you before we exit on today.
Well, my spiritual father retired in February and he passed the baton to me. So we are actually in the process of merging both of our churches. For 24 years, I pastored the House of Prayer for All Nations Ministries here in Chicago. And my dad called and he said, after 42 years, it's time for me to hang it up. I need to rest. And I said, of course, being a son in the house, of course, Dad, I got you. So we went through the process. I was officially installed in May, if I'm not mistaken. My brain is going blank right now. I got so much stuff on the brain. And that's what we're working on now. We're merging both of our churches. So we're at 447 West 120th Street. We're selling our old building at 11304 South Edbrook with everything in it, chairs, furniture, office equipment, everything you need to start church is there. And it is on sale. It's on the market right now. So we do have people looking at it. So if you're considering launching a ministry or you have a church and you need your own place, we are selling it. So contact me. We have a branch of our construction company in Indianapolis now. We're getting ready to open up a new branch in Houston, Texas this spring. I do real estate for a living, for those who don't know. I'm a licensed realtor here. I'm getting ready to go back to school and get my instructor's license because our brokerage is launching our online real estate school. So for those of you who want to get your real estate license, you can come and take classes with us. I'll be one of your instructors. You can get your real estate license and you can actually hang your license with us, Our Legacy Realty, here in Chicago. And we are looking to spread our brand in other cities and states across the United States of America. So if you're looking to get involved in real estate, you want to learn, become a realtor, or you want to learn to become an investor, please reach out to me. I'm on Facebook at David A. Rogers, and you can find me on there, Twitter, Instagram, Dave the Millionaire Mentor. And we're here to help make you become who God called you to be, help you advance your life. Want to buy a house, an investment property, give me a call.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. See, I told y'all you got a lot of stuff going on. That's a blessing, though. That is truly a blessing. And I am grateful to God for using you and blessing you in the areas, so many areas that he has done so already. So you guys reach out to him. If you see on Facebook, he's made a few comments, go ahead and tap in there, reach out to him, and he can definitely help you out. You're wearing a lot of hats. But you know what you're going to do? You're going to keep prioritizing yourself. I know that. I know that you're going to do.
I'm trying to retire and get on a plane. So somewhere other than church and work. Jamaica, Aruba.
All right. It's gonna happen. It's gonna happen.
Jesus.
All right. What'd you say?
I said, yes, Jesus.
Okay. Yes, ma'am.
Hey.
Listen, is there anything else you want to share with us before we end on today? Any final words, maybe on this discussion, or anything else you want to share?
Love Jesus and give yourself opportunity to grow. Don't be afraid to change. Don't be afraid to adjust. Don't be afraid to admit that there's some areas in your life that you need fixed, and allow God to bring you the people and the resources to fix it. You won't regret it. I don't regret going to therapy. I don't regret my track, my journey, my path, the things that God is dealing with me on now. I don't regret one bit of it. I appreciate all of it. It's become a help to me. It's deepened my walk with God, my relationship with God. My ability to hear from him is way better. And I'm just excited about my future. And if you want to join us on the journey, we're here. We're based in Chicago. And you can join us online in NVOFM Virtual Community on Facebook. We do push our Bible study and our Sunday morning worship there. So you can join us. And we are having regional meetings scheduled this year. So I'll be in Indianapolis at the end of February. Beginning of February, we'll be in Cedartown, Georgia. They actually, our church there just opened up a new school, daycare, in Rockmart, Georgia. And they're based out of Cedartown, Georgia. So God is just moving by his spirit. I'm just supernaturally excited about what God is doing.
Okay. And it's New Faith. Can you say it again? New Faith.
New Vision of Faith Ministries, 447 West 120th. New Faith is in Matson. That's my friend's church.
It sure is.
Dr. Sheree Reed, one of the finest bass players the world has ever seen.
All right, you guys make sure you reach out to him. You also have Facebook. Is it teaching still on Facebook Live?
We have Bible study every Tuesday at 7 o'clock on my Facebook, on Facebook Live. And then periodically I'll jump on and I'll do some teaching or some encouragement on a subject as the Spirit gives me guidance. And then I'm always posting something. So I use Facebook to educate. So
Yes.
I'm always posting something on there that can help stir you up and strengthen you in your study and your research life, and just making you aware of different things that are going on in politics. I work in politics at the community level and at the spiritual level.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I for one want to thank you, sir, for your time again on today. I don't take it for granted you coming on with me. I learned a lot. My supporters, my listeners, those that are tuning in, they learned a lot as well from you. I am grateful as well that God was able to bring you out of that dark place and you did not succeed in getting out of here. Because I'm telling you, I don't know what Annette would have done, Lord Jesus. But I know there's a lot of other people that are depending on you as well. But I'm just talking for myself. I'm grateful that God brought you out of that and you're able to pay it forward and help someone else and encourage them, in what it is that they need to, number one, watch out for, recognize, and to get help with. So thank God for you. So thank you again for this time on today. We're going to have you back. As we're celebrating the 10 years on this year. You have been with us, like I said, a number of years. So we're grateful. So thank you again, sir.
I'm gonna have a haircut the next time.
You know what?
Barbara will be back in town in Jesus' name. I claim it.
Just fine, sir. You're just fine. But all right, guys, as Apostle is exiting out on today, we just want to thank each of you for your time on today, for coming in and joining us and sharing with us those comments you guys here that have watched. Some of you just listen, which is okay. Instagram, Facebook Live, also on YouTube. We thank you for joining in with us. As mentioned earlier, we will definitely make sure that we upload the video portion of today's live segment on YouTube a little bit later. But thank you guys for joining us. This is the second segment of the new year. As we stated earlier, last week we were blessed with Dr. Lord Michael Hunt, and we had our Wisdom Wednesday. And it was a very, very exciting segment and very informative. And I'm grateful to God for when he gives me these different segments to kind of hop on there and who he gives to come in to join me in the discussion. So I'm going to set us up so that we can listen to our particular promo for next week. And we are excited. So stay tuned for more on Mind, Body, and Soul with Annette.
On the next session of Get Caught in a Net.
Get caught in a net.